What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to break down, Brian, the final race of the NASCAR season, the championship.
We've made it!
Will be decided, our first season in the books. This has been a lot of fun. Obviously, we've hit some winners. We've gone back to some losers over and over because, you got to keep a good balance of both. But Brian, how the hell are you? And are you ready for the season finale in Phoenix?
Yeah, dude, I'm great. I'm looking forward to this race because it's going to be my first time actually checking out like the championship race in a NASCAR season. As most of you know, like this is the first time that both Kyle and I have taken a deeper dive into NASCAR. So we've been paying some pretty good attention to this, and I know Sunday I'll be excited to see who takes home the trophy.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna find a screen for them in the man cave for the final race and enjoy that. If you are enjoying our NASCAR content, please mash that thumbs up. Please hit subscribe. We will be back for the start of the 2021 season and very, very soon. We'll preview it. We'll talk about new drivers, new homes, new seats. But until before then, we have to recap and finish this season first. So let's start what we always do, Brian. Let's go inside 10-1 and let's find some winners. And I know you hate this guy. I know he's not your favorite, but Joey Logano 5-1 plus what 450, I believe, at William Hill. Plus 450 at William Hill. I'm a fan. I think he's primed, and we'll obviously talk our championship odds here in a second, or I guess towards the end of this. We'll give you some names, but I think he's obviously in the final four. It's been a kind of weird up and down season for him, but I think he's in a really good spot to seal the deal. Even though it was a little messy, a little, up and down, a guy who's won at this track before, one top 5, 3 top 10s over his last 7. But it's just been running really well, especially as of late. It did enough to get into the final 4. And as a guy that I think has the goods to finish the season on a great note and hoist that trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, as much as I dislike Logano from a betting perspective, just because I've been burned a few times while taking him, he is a guy who he gets on these streaks where when he gets going good, he's driving really well. And that is something that he's been doing the last few races. The last 4 races in this season, he's finished top 10 in all of those with a top 3 in 3 of those 4. The third place finish last week in Martinsville to help secure his spot into this championship round. And, going up against the other 3 dudes that are in the playoffs here, the only other one that has had as much success at this track would be Denny Hamlin. And he's a guy who he's also been kind of streaky this year. Like he's had the moments where he's won a couple races, pretty close together, but then also not finished very well. So, yeah, I like the call with Logano with his history at this track and with how well he's running coming into this race.
Yeah, and I know it feels like forever ago, but he is the defending champion from this race back in March. So we'll see. Let's talk about your guy, and we can kind of talk about the top 10 because there's obviously a lot of interesting names in there. But we're going back to the well with Kyle Busch again this week at 8-1.
Yeah, when I first started doing my research on this, Kyle Busch actually opened up at 10-1 over on DraftKings, and it's down to 8-1. He's currently 12-1 on William Hill, which I would be looking to go over there if I had access to that, if I was going to pick him to be the winner. Yep. His average finish here over his last 5 races is 1.8. So he's averaging finishing like in the top 2 at this racetrack, which how the hell can you not pick that? I know he's not in the playoff, but this is a guy this is the defending champion. He didn't make it into the rounds to try to win the championship, but that's not going to stop him from trying to win these races. He's got 5 straight top 3s here. This dude is just, he's money at this track. And then when you're looking at what he's been doing over the last few races of this season, he's got 3 straight top 10s, 2 top 5s, and he won a couple weeks ago over in Texas. So this dude, he's also one of the things that I really like about Kyle Busch this week is that he hasn't had less than 2 victories in a season since 2014. So that's dating back over five full years of racing, and he's sitting on 1 this year with that victory at Texas. So I'm banking on him potentially trying to get that second victory, which is something that we normally see him do.
Yeah. How do we feel in general, like obviously about some of these guys that aren't in the Final Four? Like Kyle Busch, obviously great numbers, great history, good runs really well in that Southwest area, kind of Texas to Arizona and up to Vegas. But like Kevin Harvick, for example, was the odds-on favorite for majority of the season, and not even in the Final Four. Obviously, really gut wrenching for him. Do you think he wants to would you expect like you're actually getting a decent price and maybe he's gonna like want to finish the season with a good taste in his mouth, or do you think he's gonna be like, you know what, this is it. I'm frustrated. This didn't go well, and kind of just cruises to the finish and gets ready for 2021?
Oh man, that's a difficult question because that was something that I thought about after checking back after the race about Martinsville and seeing that he didn't make it into the Final Four when he was the most dominant driver over the duration of this season, and how that could affect him coming into this last race. I mean, all these guys are professionals, but kind of like you said, I think this might be a situation where he's just so pissed off where he's either going to be uber aggressive to try to get to the top and win this race and basically tell everybody F off. Like,
yeah, he's going to Ricky Bobby it.
Yeah.
First to last, baby.
Or like you said, he's gonna take less chances and just try to get out of this season healthy. And I think it's going to be what I mentioned first. I really think Kevin Harvick is going to race really hard this race, and I think he's going to be up near the top the whole day.
Yeah, I mean, he's been dominant all season. Obviously, has a nice history at this track, so it makes a lot of sense. Let's dive deeper. Let's do what we always do, and let's check out those lower level drivers who have a chance to provide a big payday. Typically with these names, we don't want to go like, we're not going to bet them outright, but top 5s, top 10s, top 3s, matchups, that kind of stuff is our favorite way to access these guys. And we'll start with William Byron, who is 60-1 this week.
Yeah, everyone will notice there's a trend of names that we've mentioned pretty frequently in this show. Just, it is the last show of the year. So, he's got 2 top 10s here in those last 5 races at this track with a 12th and a 17th and 2 of the other ones. And prior to his crash last week at Martinsville, coming towards the end of this season, he had an average finish of 8th, over the previous 4 races. He's starting 25th this week in Phoenix. So if you're looking at value for DFS, I mean, that's a great possibility of him moving up. Or, we've had a few commenters talking about like matchups, and he's a guy who I really like his matchup over on William Hill. They have him against Matt DiBenedetto, and I believe he's like minus 110 right now. And when you look at DiBenedetto, his best finish at this track is 13th, and every other finish after that is 20th or worse in his other 8 races here. Whereas William Byron, he's averaging finishing around the 9th or 10th place spot. So I think that's like one of my favorite matchup picks in this race as well.
I like that call quite a bit. Got a nice little matchup between 2 of our favorites, Alex Bowman, Eric Almirola. Bowman's a nice minus 120 favorite. Clint Boyer's another name that we liked when we dive down this low that could make a lot of sense. We kind of like our old fogies. We like our favorite options, and we're going to run through them. Talk to me about Eric Jones, 60-1 also. Another guy with a price that definitely opens up your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy we've picked him so many times. I've lost count now, and the few times we've picked him, he's done pretty well. There has been a couple occurrences where he's wound up crashing out of races. That's just kind of the driver he is, and he has his ride secured for next year, which is fantastic. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing him move on. And one of the reasons why I'm picking on him this week is the fact because this is his last race with Joe Gibbs, and it's kind of anybody who's ever quit a job or left a job, like, you never want to burn any bridges. So he wants to end this on a high note. So he's going to try to finish as high as possible. And this is a guy who, over his last 8 races here, he has 4 top 10s. And then the other 4 haven't been the greatest, but he has shown the ability to finish near the top of the field at this track. And he's coming off a 12th place finish last week at Martinsville after 2 kind of mediocre races for him. So he's just a guy that I'm looking near the back end that possibly sneak into that top 10 at some good money at plus 125 there.
Yeah, I'm looking at a matchup with him and Kurt Busch. You can get him at plus 110 in that matchup. I don't hate that. Um, obviously Kurt Busch, like his brother Kyle, kind of has a good run of success, but I think Jones is in a nice spot. I think, as you mentioned, could run well here and have a nice finish to his season as he gets ready for his new seat. I got to do it. Ryan Newman, 100-1. It's an even more absurd, I think, 500-1 over at Will Hill. So I would be looking at matchup props there. I would be looking at top 10s, top 15s, whatever they have. They don't have those numbers listed quite yet. But I'm sure if you find yourself at a Will Hill book, you can get some nice value on him. A guy that, isn't going to blow your doors off, but over his last two races at this track with his new team, 12th and 18th, starting kind of in the middle of the, I think 18th or 20th to start. I think he has top 10 upside. I think he I don't necessarily think he's going to win. But when you can get the kind of prices like plus 350 at a top 10, you can get 40-1 on a top 3. I'm pulling up top 5 right now. Doesn't exist because he's too long. Anyways, a good option in DFS. I think a top 10 is definitely in the realm of outcome for a guy that's run well here. Has a win back in 2017. And I know it hasn't been a great season. He's kind of a lineup filler for NASCAR at this point of his career. But I think it's a good spot for him. I think he's in a nice position to perform well, and at his price, for a top 10, I think it's a number worth taking a look at.
Yeah, I think, and kind of like we talk about when we go into like our betting show for the NFL and college football and stuff like that, you're looking at a number that is more likely to hit. And when you're looking at especially racing, you're going to bet 4-1 for a guy to win the race where they have to beat 39 other drivers, as opposed to say a Ryan Newman, you're getting similar odds for him to finish a quarter of the field, So I like Newman as another guy who might sneak into the top 10 along with Jones and Byron.
Yep. Let's talk championships because we got some numbers over on DraftKings. Elliott, Hamlin, and Keselowski are all plus 250. My boy Joey Logano's plus 270. Over at William Hill, I just saw, Denny Hamlin plus 225, Chase Elliott 275, Keselowski 280, and Logano 300. I've seen some love for Denny Hamlin. Obviously, as you mentioned, runs pretty well here. Do you have a favorite of the four in terms of, whether you're looking at just a number, like obviously with Keselowski, Hamlin, and Elliott at DraftKings having a pretty similar run. Keselowski at plus 280, Elliott at plus 275, or Will Hill, my boy Logano at 3-1 over there. Like, where is your head at in terms of winning outright?
So I immediately jumped on Denny Hamlin. I think he's the most consistent of the guys that are still up for the championship at this track. Yeah. Where, like, just kind of looking at the numbers, like I know Logano has 2 wins to Hamlin's 1, but when looking at their average finishing position, Denny Hamlin is, I think, third in that aspect of something like 4.5 or right around the 5th place finish, or he's actually right around 10th place finish, and Logano is 5 spots lower at around 14, 15. Yeah. And, Hamlin hasn't been running as well over the last 4 races. He's, double-digit finishes in all 4 of those. But he is a guy that has shown this season and past seasons where he can turn it around on the drop of a dime. And Joey Logano, to me, like anytime I put money in the bank for him, he always screws me over. So he's not a guy that I would be looking at. But I do like Logano at a close second, even as the fourth best odds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Chase Elliott's recent run. Obviously had a 7th the last time, but before that, 39th, 14th, 23rd. Has a 3rd and a 2nd back in 17, 18. Has been running well, but like his recent runs at this track haven't been great. A name that from, kind of overall perspective I really like, but it is weird that you kind of end up at one track, and that track really determines how this is going to come to an end. I think Logano is really interesting. As I mentioned, I like him to win the race. I don't hate the idea of placing a bet. Like, I don't think you can parlay them. Like, I don't think they would let you do that. But, winning the race and looking at, that plus 270 to win the championship, because that's kind of an interesting way to hedge, right? Say he gets second or third, maybe you could win that bet and still not lose even if they doesn't win the race outright. So I might look at doing that as well.
I also really like Joey Logano. So Joey Logano's matchup on William Hill currently is against Chase Elliott, and Logano's plus 100 in that. So you're getting even money for a guy who actually runs better here, traditionally than Chase Elliott. So I would definitely be putting my money in Logano's side on that matchup.
And if you want to ride Logano with me, then I think finding different ways to attack him is a great way. I also like Hamlin versus Keselowski. Minus 115. It's a little bit heavy of a price, but I think it makes a price that makes a lot of sense. And a bet that we like Hamlin. We think he has a good shot. Taking him this week as well, I think makes a ton of sense. So, Brian, before we get out of here, before we say adios to the NASCAR season and plan for our next run, we have to do what we always do. NASCAR Best Bet time. Who we got?
I was gonna try to pick a winner for this one, but I'm not gonna do that. I've been struggling with the winners, but I am gonna go back to a familiar name to everybody, to the show and to Kyle and I, and I'm gonna go back to the well with Eric Jones, and I'm gonna go top 5 plus 600.
I like it. I'm going to double up here. I'm going to go Joey Logano to win the NASCAR championship. And I'm also going to go Joey Logano versus Chase Elliott. I obviously, that's why I'm trying to double up, because I know not everybody has access to all the matchups, but if you have access, Elliott versus Logano might be my favorite matchup. But if not, taking him to win the NASCAR championship might be my second best bet. So I'm just team Joey Logano this week. If things go well, I might just be Joey Logano fanboy next season, all decked out in gear. But
if they don't, I'm just gonna say I told you so.
That's all. I mean, and it'll be warranted for sure. So Brian Twining, this has been a lot of fun. Obviously, as we mentioned, we are trying to we're going to ramp up coverage for NASCAR 2021. We'll get all the updates as we head into February. Enjoy the final race of the season. Enjoy a quick break from NASCAR, and then we'll get right back to it. We'll hopefully hitting some winners, finding some best bets, all that good stuff. But for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.